Hi everyone, it's Dr. Ramani and welcome back to this YouTube channel on all things related to narcissism. Many people ask me, how do I avoid raising a narcissistic kid, or where did this even happen? So this series is on how to, or maybe better yet, how not to raise a narcissist. I'm hoping that what you learn in this series not only gives you some pointers for, especially if you're co-parenting with a narcissist, how to maybe best sort of protect your kid from some of these patterns and just sort of avoid some of this, though even you could do all of this and still raise a narcissistic kid, and there's some things we can't ever get around. But also just to give you a sense of what the origins of this are. And if you are new to this channel, please subscribe. Not only is there content about parenting in a world where narcissism is an issue, just about every kind of issue you can think of narcissism related we do. And then hit that notification and you'll get notifications, and hit that thumbs up if you like this video. So let's talk about this topic. How do you not raise a narcissist? And today we're going to talk about something very specific called extrinsic motivation. So what is this thing called extrinsic motivation? So let me put it to you as a thought of, let's think about people out there, parents out there, who may only care about things like this. Where are you going to go to school someday? Did you get on the right sports team? Oh, sweetie, you got to wear this dress I got you. I spent hours looking for this dress to find something that looks right on you. Isn't Dad's new car amazing? Look at all this new stuff I bought. Look at my retail therapy. Sweetie, do you really need to have dessert every night? When we think about those things, and if your parents ever said things like that to you, drop it in the comments. But healthy people are about their interiors. People on the narcissism spectrum are about their exteriors. And as far as they are concerned, a good exterior can compensate for any level of insecurity or inadequacy. People raised by narcissistic parents, especially grandiose, communal, and self-righteous narcissists, will remember childhoods characterized by how things looked. The house needing to look just so. Family photos needing to look just so. Celebrations needing to look just so. Your appearance looking just so. And with self-righteous narcissistic parents, there may be the exterior element of needing everyone to do things in the rigid way that the parent expected them to, and to live in the lines of how the self-righteous narcissistic parent believes people should live. It's all about how things look. But we can take this a step further into something called intrinsic versus extrinsic motivation and value systems. Intrinsic motivation is about doing something because it feels good for you. Writing a poem because it just feels nice to write a poem or share your emotion, even if nobody ever reads it. Or cooking something just to experiment with a recipe, or you think it might taste good. You aren't doing it for an extrinsic reward. That's what we see in an extrinsic motivational system, which is driven by external rewards or praise from other people. You can guess which one is the narcissist's game. Ding, they are extrinsically motivated. There are researchers out there like Richard Ryan and Tim Kasser who take on issues like extrinsic and intrinsic value systems, and they link it to something really important, which is materialism. Materialism is our drive to acquire or own or just show off our stuff and our achievements. Obviously, all of this is core to narcissism as well. Materialism is an extrinsic value system. Now, narcissistic people are very materialistic because it's an external way to easily get validation and to regulate. Hey, it doesn't matter if your self-esteem sucks as long as you have $800 shoes or a $50 million yacht or a tricked out truck or the latest gadget. The shoes, the yacht, the truck, the gadget, the stuff, all become a way to regulate that self-esteem through the admiration that the world gives, or the perception that everyone envies you for the great stuff you have. Now, extrinsic value systems and motivations are linked to greater emptiness, fragility, lower self-esteem, and a greater need for praise and less empathy. Extrinsic values are also associated with being less socially connected, less community-oriented, and less attuned to the needs of others. All of that's starting a lot like narcissism. More materialism, more narcissism. In the Instagram-infused hashtag look at the brands I am wearing world we are in, all of this can feel like a setup for greater societal narcissism. But what this video is about is, what does this mean for children? Let's face it, there's very few people out there who would say, hey, I'd love it if my children were really materialistic. But I've seen more than a few unsettling internet images of children wearing designer backpacks costing thousands of dollars, or logo festooned designer labels that are mirrors of their parents, when I'm sure they'd be just fine wearing a shirt with their favorite anime character. But modally, I don't think many parents want this for their child. However, the parents' behavior may be quite materialistic. So the children may hear their parents yammering on about their clothes, their cars, their labels, their neighborhoods, or other stuff. The child may observe how much their parents are so concerned about how things look, or may hear their parents' conversations coveting what other people have, the vacations other people have, you name it. The children themselves may have attention lavished on them for how they look or how they perform. Holiday or birthday gifts may be age-inappropriate high-end goods, when the child may have been just fine with Legos or a board game. Now, if parents don't police this extrinsic motivation stuff, we're basically kind of sunk, because that's more of a family thing. I don't believe personally that extrinsic motivation and extrinsic value systems alone by themselves are a major generator of narcissism. If a child has secure attachments, available and responsive caregivers, compassion, kindness, consistency, validation, then the kid is probably going to have good fundamentals in most cases. And so buying a kid a Gucci backpack or a Chanel sweatshirt, or a parent bragging about their new sports car all the time, that's probably not what's going to make a kid narcissistic. It might make them materialistic and superficial, but not narcissistic. Ultimately, if a child has a solid sense of self and secure attachment, exposure and cultivation to extrinsic motivation may be more likely maybe to result in stuff like entitlement, some privilege, superficiality. There may also be some dents in their empathy and deeper social connection. But like I said, extrinsic motivation is an issue in making narcissism, but it's definitely not a ringer. It really is a difficult era for parents who are raising children who are exposed to the desolation and materialism of social media. And parents in this generation didn't have to grapple with this stuff as children, so they're really trying to raise kids in a landscape that's completely unfamiliar and new. It's really tightrope walking without a net. The proliferation of lifestyle images, branding of human beings, and stuff like billionaire worship makes it tough to work on the intrinsic stuff, because the extrinsic stuff is always clanging in our ears, even if it's not stuff we're interested in. So the question then becomes, what can a parent or caregiver do to manage these issues around extrinsic motivation? Number one, as parents, we have to get our own extrinsic stuff in check. Listen, everybody likes new things from time to time, but maybe shopping is not an optimal weekend activity every weekend. Be mindful of how you talk about shopping, stuff, and image. Be careful you don't fall into snobby critiques because someone's wearing the wrong shoes or wrong clothes or other sorts of lifestyle indicators. The lessons are out there for us to teach, but as parents you may think, well, I'm just getting my kid regular kid stuff or the stuff their friends have. But if they believe that you really value high-end stuff or just stuff in general, it does impact them. Secondly, you need to pay attention to how your child interacts with stuff. If you notice your child doing things only for praise or rewards or external incentives, start modeling better behavior by teaching them about the internal rewards, such as the pleasure in just doing something well, or just enjoying what you do versus always giving them gold stars and screen time as a reward. It's very easy for us as parents to only use external incentives because they work. However, it is quite important to incentivize the just doing something, and that can mean that we need to slow down and engage in the just doing. Art projects, board games, bake a cake, plant a garden, walk the dog. Number 3, as a parent, We've got to stop with the it has to look good of it all. Stop with obsessing over the house being perfect and the drawers being perfectly organized and the clothes being perfect and the pictures being perfect and their activities being perfect and the best tutor and the best ballet class and the best soccer team and the best. All of that appearance focus impacts your child and fosters that sense of extrinsic motivation. Number 4, definitely you need to catch your children if they are disparaging someone for not having the right this or the right that, or for any forms of snobbery or devaluation. Take a minute and look inward to determine if that focus comes from the vibe in the household, and if so, try to change the family culture. If it's not the family culture, it may be something that they have seen peers do, and then it becomes a conversation about not valuing people simply by what they wear or the things they own. Number 5, engage in stories, books, movies, anything that sends the message of inside is important, outside is secondary. These modern parables that you might find in stories and movies are important. Choose ones that are age appropriate, because the fact is, the older they get, the less you are going to be able to shape them in this regard. So start young. Number 6, ensure that conversations about money, stuff, acquisition of stuff, status, are managed at an age-appropriate level, and have conversations about this stuff in a way that's out of their earshot. As a parent, you may care about the right neighborhood or the status thing, but these are not always appropriate conversations for your child to hear. You don't want them to hear that if we have these things, then we're better. It's just not good for them. Number 7, stay on top of their social media usage. TikTok, Instagram, these are platforms that really foster targeted advertising, marketing, brand uptake, and the sense for young people that if I could just look like that and have that or be that, then my life would be good, as well as the relentless social comparison that occurs because of these platforms. Spending time on these sites for young people and adolescents, it's a time suck with little reward, and it definitely reinforces extrinsic motivation. But tread lightly. Instead of turning TikTok or Instagram into the enemy, which is definitely a battle you cannot win, talk to them about it. Let them share with you what they find engaging about these platforms. Let them engage in critical thinking about it. I got to be honest, a lot of adolescents are pretty damn sophisticated, and they do understand how manipulative social media is, and they are able to articulate that. Instead of turning social media into the big bad thing, just help your kids become social media aware. You're more likely to make more meaningful headway in those conversations. Pushing back on materialism doesn't mean that you minimize, enjoying a new piece of clothing you get from time to time. Pushing back on extrinsic motivation is really paying attention to not measuring yourself and others on the basis of external characteristics, or engaging in certain behaviors only for extrinsic rewards. While materialism and extrinsic value systems don't cause narcissism, they definitely set up risk factors like less depth, less empathy, and a sense of self that is too based on the stuff outside of us. And always remember the key message about where narcissism comes from. More and more evidence suggests that it's very much associated with temperament. Child is born with a certain temperament that makes the child almost sort of biologically vulnerable. Then the stuff that happens in the environment is what then heightens the likelihood of that child potentially becoming a narcissistic adult. What it means is that your child who has a different, maybe a much softer, easier to soothe, milder, kinder temperament, exposed to all this extrinsic stuff, may not be as affected by it. But a kid with one of those more difficult, fractious temperaments, with all this extrinsic motivational stuff on top of it, and the reward seeking that's built into those difficult temperaments, that could end up being more of a setup for narcissism. So it's not just one thing, it's many, many pathways coming together. So thanks again.